Harry Potter fans. You are listening to the podcast that must not be named. I continue to be Melissa.
I'm considering being Luke still.
And we are here discussing Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Chapter number 11, The Dueling Club. This chapter is 23 pages long, which is 6.74% of the book. And Luke is going to tell us what just happened.
Harry wakes in the hospital wing and is discharged by Madame Pomfrey. He heads out to find Ron and Hermione and is intercepted by Percy Weasley, who is excited about the Quidditch win Harry procured for the house. Harry goes to Myrtle's bathroom and finds Ron and Hermione working on the Polyjuice potion and fills them in about Colin's petrification and Dobby's visit. The trio returns to Gryffindor common room and finds out a dueling club will be starting that night and decide to check it out. Led by Professors Lockhart and Snape, the students are shown the disarming charm before being split into pairs to try it out. Harry and Draco are placed together. The two hit each other with non-disarming spells and are then chosen by Snape to act as demonstrators in front of everyone. After some worthless advice from Lockhart, the two boys square off and Draco produces a large snake which Lockhart fails to get rid of. The now irritated snake heads towards Justin Finch Fletchley and Harry calls out for the snake to stop. The snake turns and makes eye contact with Harry, and everyone else stares too. Snape deals with the snake, and Harry is quickly led from the Great Hall by Ron, with everyone else shocked and still staring. Confused, Harry learns that he is a Parselmouth and can talk to snakes, which is highly uncommon and was last known to be a trait of Salazar Slytherin himself. The next day, herbology is cancelled, and Harry feels that Justin deserves an explanation and wants to clear the air about what happened the night before. So Harry heads to the library and overhears a group of Hufflepuffs discussing how Justin is hiding from Harry and believes him to be the heir of Slytherin. Harry confronts the group and explains himself, but leaves them frustrated. After a brief run-in with Hagrid, Harry discovers that Nearly Headless Nick has been petrified, along with Justin, and Peeves catches Harry in the act. Harry is taken by McGonagall straight to Dumbledore's office.
We introduced ourselves to some new people this time. We have Miss Fawcett, Boot.
Just a character who's called Boot.
Boot.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like a sorting hat, just like a sorting boot that's just running around. That'd be interesting.
Ernie Macmillan, Serpent Tongue, which is another name for Salazar Slytherin. And, guys, this is the big one. Are you ready?
This is a big
so
one. We've been waiting for a book and a half.
We finally know who's in charge of the astronomy department.
Well, we know someone of the astronomy department.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We know it's not the head
I got too excited. We know somebody who might actually be teaching astronomy. Professor Sinistra.
Yep. I'm excited. We actually have an astronomy department worker, at least.
I think it's really funny that the name has the word sinister in it.
Yeah.
Seeing as how long it took for us to get a name, I feel like there might be something in there. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. We did get a new location. We are on the staircase up to Dumbledore's office.
Ooh.
Right there at the end of the chapter.
Yeah, so we had plenty of magicabulary this chapter. We had the dueling club, we had a mention of chameleon ghouls and a swelling solution with a deflating draft as well. We learned Expelliarmus, which is the disarming charm. We learn Rictum Sempra, which is the tickling charm. We hear Tarantallegra, Finite Incantatum, Serpensortia, and we hear of Parselmouths and Parcel Tongues, and there's also a reference to a blood-sucking bugbear.
Yeah, most of the time when we do these magicabulary, I'm like, oh yeah. I have read these books. I can't tell you how many times. Where does it mention blood-sucking bugbear? Because that in no way rings a bell. This is Luke and his random I found things in a chapter.
Second one killed this term, he explained. It's either foxes or a blood-sucking bugbear, and I need the headmaster's permission to put a charm on a hen coop.
Oh, Hagrid.
Yep.
He's gamekeeping.
He is keeping games. Attaboy, Hagrid. Attaboy. We like it. We like good hard work. We appreciate it.
You're doing your job. Look, it is a good Hagrid book.
It's the best. So let's look at the illustration this chapter. as I swipe back to it, we see a floating body. I'm assuming this might be nearly headless Nick. He's not very transparent looking, but he does have a sword.
And he's floating.
And he's floating.
Not many people float. And well, look at his neck.
It's
nearly severed.
It's fairly severed.
There is a lot of empty space between the neck and the head. Mostly.
He's got a crazy hairdo.
Yeah, that's a little odd.
Yeah.
I like the heeled boots.
Yeah, I do like that. He looks more swashbuckling, like a pirate almost more to me than I would have expected.
Than a knight who's a sir.
Is that just me?
No, it's not you. Except for the heels on the boots. That's a little rough for pirates. All right, so Luke, let's go ahead and get into what were some of your random ponderings about this chapter.
I pondered fairly randomly this chapter, and I like that we have a throwback to the portable waterproof fires. That is a speciality of Hermione's. It's something we saw in book 1 a couple times. With the Devil's Snare and with the Quidditch match where she sets Snape on fire and all that, and they warm their hands on it and all that and stuff. So it's nice to see that it just hasn't been forgotten about. I like when she brings things back like that. Doesn't really use it for much here, right? I mean, I think they just kind of mention it, that she does it, and that's cool. Good
job, Hermione. Yep. Still making fire.
And then we also, after at the end of last chapter, I think the school was a little bit all in commotion. There's a lot of worried students. There's a lot of people who are buying and selling anti-curse artifacts, one of which is Neville. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised on that one, but he buys a green onion, a purple crystal, and a rotting tail newt.
Ooh, pick me.
Newt tail, sorry.
Pick me.
You.
Which one smells worse?
Probably the rotting newt tail, I would think.
Depending on how fresh that onion is, though, too. That's a lot of scents going on right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure that there was no other descriptors of the purple crystal to give it anything else.
Possibly that one might not be smelly.
Oh, come on. It's gonna be real early, right? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Meanwhile, hidden from the teachers, a roaring trade in talismans, amulets, and other protective devices was sweeping the school. Neville Longbottom bought a large, evil-smelling green onion, a pointed purple crystal, and a rotting newt tail before the other Gryffindor boys pointed out that he was in no danger. He was a pureblood, and therefore unlikely to be attacked. They went for Filch first, Neville said, his round face fearful, and everyone knows I'm almost a squib.
So
solid burn on Filch there, Neville.
So does a rotting newt tail smell worse than something that's evil smelling? I don't know.
Weigh in, listeners. Let us know.
Yeah.
See if we remember to.
We'll put a poll up on Twitter.
We'll see if we remember to put a poll up on Twitter. We're gonna try. On Twitter.
Another random thought that I had while taking notes this chapter. I noticed we have 20 cauldrons in the potions room for double potions with the Gryffindors and the Slytherins. The exact same group that we had flying lessons with in book 1 where there were 20 brooms.
Oh.
I'm just... You kind of fought me on this one last time.
On this.
You said that maybe they had extra brooms or maybe they shared. And I was like, well... I think you'd have the right number of brooms for the number of students that you have. So this leads me to believe that we know there are 5 Gryffindor boys for sure.
Yes.
We know of at least 3 Gryffindor girls.
Yes.
So somewhere in the remainder of potential girls and boys of Slytherins and Gryffindors, yeah, it equals up to 20. Or, again, somehow there's just random extra cauldrons sitting around.
I approve your conjecture.
I can't say it's not, ironclad.
It's not proof because you can't say that is 100% true, but you have posited a conjecture.
I'm finding a pattern as well.
There you go.
We'll keep an eye on it.
Well, you will.
I will. Not even trying to keep an eye on it. It's hard for me to miss. So in that potions class, it was a heck of a toss by Harry to get the filibuster firework into Goyle's cauldron. He just chucks it from across the room and sinks it.
So are we sure that Seeker is the right spot for him? Or should he maybe try out for Chaser too?
I don't know. I mean,
Can he just play all the positions?
Apparently he should, because again, when he was learning the game, Wood thought he'd be a pretty good beater as well.
There you go.
He hit the bludger.
He did.
So we go forward in this chapter and we start getting the cold internal voice inside Harry's head challenging him on his Gryffindorness. Like, it constantly is reminding him that the Sorting Hat wanted to put Harry into Slytherin. What are your thoughts on that? It's his own internal monologue is what we're led to believe.
I feel like it's that second guess thing that you have. Like, I'm going to go do this. Oh, maybe I should have done that. This was a big decision that he made. He made that choice not to be Slytherin. And whether or not the hat would have put him in there to start, because he's the one who brought it up at the sorting. He was the one saying, not Slytherin, not Slytherin. The hat didn't say anything about Slytherin until Harry mentioned it. So I wonder if it's very much Harry putting that on there, and the hat was just responding, well, yeah, you'd be great in there. Doesn't mean that's what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. You just kept saying it, so I'm going to talk about it. I think it's that same sort of thing. Like, Harry just second guesses. He's brooding about it. He doesn't...
lack of self-assuredness.
Yes. Which is a very not Gryffindor trait of him, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's young, and he's put in a pretty tough spot, he doesn't know what's going on, and he's being blamed for it almost, and that's tough to deal with. So I think it's pretty reasonable.
I do too. I don't have a problem with it. I just wish he would tell somebody about it so that they could talk rationally to him.
Right, and this is why, I think last chapter, the chapter before, I asked if he should confide in Harry and Ron, or yes. Ron and Hermione, sorry. And I think for his own mental health, he should.
I agree.
My next note just says chess.
Were they playing it, or
I think
did they mention it?
Hermione and Ron played chess.
Ah, was that the one Hermione was losing?
Yeah, clearly.
Nice. Clearly. Because it's good for her sometimes.
Yeah, it is good for her.
It is good for her. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
When Harry steps out to confront the Hufflepuffs who are talking about him, I mean, it's not really behind his back. He's just not there, but they clearly are hoping they're not overheard. So I guess that's kind of like talking behind someone's back.
True.
I really like the way he just asserts himself there. He just takes the question out of it and puts himself, if you guys are going to take shots at me, I'm right here. Like, let's talk about this. I came here to try to clear the air and figure this out with you guys.
Yeah, in kind of a non-threatening way. He wasn't like...
He did a very good job. Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That was it.
Yeah, no, he did a very good job, not being a non-threatening way of saying, well, I'm looking for Justin to tell him what happened last night. And Ernie jumps all over him saying, well, we all saw what happened. And then Harry's like, so you saw the snake turn away after I told it to stop? Like, you saw that? Did you see that? The thing that happened?
Well, and here's what's funny. Like, I wonder if everybody was like, oh, Harry's talking to the snake. And freaked out before they actually saw the not attacking happen.
Right. Yeah. I just think Harry did a very good job.
I do too. It was very mature and level-headed and reasonable of him. That's my word, apparently.
Yeah, no, reasonable is a pretty reasonable word. And he did a good job at not losing his cool. I mean, he got frustrated. He definitely got frustrated, but he didn't lash out. He didn't take it out on them at all. Right. He tried to work with them, and they weren't going to work with him. So he kind of walked away. And, Ernie calls out, I've heard you hate those muggles that you live with. And he's like, oh, you mean the child abusers I was forced to live with when my parents were killed? Those muggles?
The muggles everybody would hate anytime? Come on now.
Like, he gets a decent little jab in there, but I don't know. They're just not listening.
But they wouldn't, though.
That's what I'm saying. It's the fickle student body
and mob mentality. Oh, everybody thinks this. So yep.
And it's a tough spot to be in for Harry. That is a hard brick wall to run into.
Yep.
My final thought here is whenever Harry does leave the library after talking to the Hufflepuffs, who does he run across? He runs across Hagrid, who kind of talks to him or whatever, and then he continues on. And we see Nearly Headless Nick and Justin Finch Fletchley petrified in the next corridor over. I thought it was interesting to note that all of the students come, crowding around again, and Harry's right there, obviously. And there's such a mob and a crowd that Justin almost gets squashed, and Harry's the only one that notices this. He's so observant and caring about other people, that it's really unfortunate that he's being put into this blamed situation, you know?
Yes. Well, and like that kind of goes with something I was thinking was, why is it always Harry who discovers the petrified people?
Mm-hmm.
He found Mrs. Norris. He found Justin and Nearly Headless Nick. He didn't find Colin.
He was just there.
But he was the first kid to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just in a bad place, the wrong place at the wrong time. But then those crowds of people randomly show up. And like, that's the part I question a little bit, because good movies don't have random crowds of children that show up. But you notice a lot in kids' movies, you know, like the big soccer game movie or the big, you know, the underdog baseball team.
Right, yeah.
All of a sudden, there's a big crowd of kids that randomly show up. It's like they just have random crowds of kids standing on the side. They're like, okay, go kids. I have never in my life, and I work with kids every day, all day long, I have never randomly seen something happen and an unknown mob of children just appears because I need an audience now. It doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that a lot in this particular book. And by a lot, I mean twice.
Yeah, I mean,
But they're random mobs. Like, they're not mobs for a reason. They seem very conveniently placed mobs.
The first one was less random seeming, just because it was after the Death Day party, and I mean, clearly the Halloween feast was going to be ending soon. It was random that all of the students went upstairs to the corridor when we know that the Slytherin common room is.
This is my point.
Like that
they
part was
all
random.
had to be there. It couldn't just be like a group of kids.
Yeah, that's a little convenient. This one was a little more, hey, we need a lot of people here, so let's make that happen.
I mean, and it could have been that it was like herbology had been canceled, so
it is the middle of the school day,
right? So maybe it was like in the middle of a transition between classes,
which I think they say the bell rings, right?
It did, but still, it just feels weird.
I wonder what the Hogwarts bell sounds like.
That's a good question.
Like, is it an interesting one?
Wouldn't it be great if it was not just like a horribly mundane school bell? You're like, oh, that's just school.
Yeah.
Like, you have all these amazing things, but that you can't change.
Yeah. So that's all I really had for my notes. What did you have?
So, is Moaning Myrtle's toilet that deserted that no one notices a cauldron sitting on a toilet for a month?
I mean, I guess so. They're really maybe they egg Myrtle on throughout the month to like have her continuously flood the bathroom to make it unusable. Almost.
Well, I was really considering that. Like, you have to make it so nobody goes in. So do we just keep like poking the dragon?
Right. That's I mean, I guess seems pretty reasonable. Works out so far.
Speaking of poking a dragon, there was a quote when they were talking about having to sneak stuff out of Snape's supplies. And Harry was very, very concerned. And it says, deliberately causing mayhem in Snape's class. So, nope, doing it again, because it's not Snape's class, it's Snape's.
Sneaky Snake, Snapey Snape.
Blah, blah. Deliberately causing mayhem in Snape's class was about as safe as poking a sleeping dragon in the eye. That is a true statement. However, I believe that poking a sleeping dragon in the eye is far better than poking an awake dragon in anywhere in his body.
That's probably fair.
So what is it about poking? Like, what is the phrase poking a sleeping dragon? Like, in theory, you could get away with it. Maybe.
It's bringing a couple real world, quotes, like poking a sleeping bear. You're better off not waking the bear.
Well,
don't wake the dragon up. That's what it's getting at. And, kind of like the let sleeping dogs lie. It's like the same thing, like let sleeping dragons lie.
And
But why not poke them in the eyes, like specifically?
Right. I would say just in general, poking a dragon bad. A sleeping dragon would be better though than a wake dragon. That's my only
I agree. That's a fair distinction.
I'll just pour some gold on their head. It'll be fun. I wish the illustration in the book had been Malfoy with his swollen balloon nose.
Yeah, looking like Grover or a hairy monster from Sesame Street.
Oh, fuzzy and blue. I love it. That's
what I think of.
Yeah.
It's like a Muppet.
Yes, very much like a Muppet. And I need to see that. So if anybody would like to send me my very own special drawing of Malfoy with a Harry the Monster nose,
We'll post it on Twitter.
Absolutely. I'll make it my profile pic for a while if you give me permission. That'd be great. Like my Twitter profile pic for the podcast. We could.
And if you want to draw us with balloon shaped noses, that'd be kind of funny too.
Yeah, less funny than Malfoy, but the podcast that must not the podcast that must not be named gets hit with a swelling solution.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, so Lockhart. I can't go very long without bashing him. I'm sorry. He can't even start a simple school club without promoting his books. Like, even his introduction to the dueling club is him promoting his books. Stop it, man. They already bought most of your books.
Yeah, you forced them.
Like, they already have them. This is not like a self-promotion thing.
Yeah.
Unlike on here, please go to thepodcastthat.com/support us and get yourself your own free Audible book. See that now, right there? That's how you promote.
Product placement.
You don't do it to people who already bought the thing.
Yeah.
However, my favorite part of the dueling club was the hilarity of all the curses that happened. The tickling curse and the dancing curse and all, like, it was awesome. The amount of lunacy happening in one room.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I really loved that same thing where, at the end of that squabble or whatever it is, it ends up with Millicent Bulstrode with Hermione's head in a headlock, just like just straight up wrestling. They'd abandoned their wands.
Forget this.
Yeah.
We're going to go hardcore.
Yeah.
I
pretty
love
funny.
it.
Pretty funny.
Okay, I changed my mind, however. So I had a backup illustration. I should have done these in order, but I go in order of how I'm reading.
That's okay.
So, okay. I have a backup illustration I'd like to see. Mandrakes in socks and scarves. Just picture that. Little chubby, weird looking
cherub
type things wearing socks and scarves. Like, that just is so funny. I really think, like, in general, there were lots and lots of funny moments in this particular chapter. Another one that I found very entertaining. Notice how, like, none of the things I liked were plot related at all.
Oh,
it was just the funny things. But I liked the part where they noticed McGonagall, who was yelling at and mad at a kid who turned his friend into a badger. Like, he was walking by McGonagall's classroom and he just heard her screaming at a kid because he had turned his friend into a badger. And so I wonder, was that a class of Hufflepuffs?
Maybe. I mean, I feel like it's got to be pretty sophisticated magic to turn a human into an animal.
So I'm thinking 4th or 5th year.
Right. I think even higher than that. And maybe we should revisit this because I have some questions.
Throw it in the 5-chapter recap.
Yeah, I have
questions
Luke
about
has
turning
questions.
your friend into a badger. Oh. So Ernie Macmillan, who's a little pompous, and they gets into a little bit, and he's doing a little bit of gossiping about evil Harry wanting to take over for Voldemort. Do you notice that in his version of Voldy's defeat, 1-year-old Harry wants to take out the evil competition? Really? He's a 1-year-old. He's already plotting to take over the world.
Yeah.
What is he, Pinky?
Yeah, right.
Like, what do we do every night, Brain? Or we do every night, Pinky? Try to take over the world. He's Brain. No, he's 1, man. He doesn't care. Like, he just wants to, like, eat some cookies and take a nap. And maybe keep his parents.
Yeah, that'd be probably pretty high on the list.
Ernie. Priorities, man. My last real big thought in this is that we finally get to travel to Dumbledore's office, which I'm very excited about. I can't wait to go there. But the password is a throwback to the very first chapter of Sorcerer's Stone. It's Lemon Drop, which he offers to McGonagall as they're sitting on the wall waiting for Hagrid to deliver Harry. I love that. And I caught it the very first time I read it. It's one of the few things I actually caught. Like, I love that throwback. And I have to tell you, this might be my favorite chapter in this book.
Ooh.
Like, I have a solid contender. It was so funny. So many things happened. It was so well written that, and listeners, I'm going to be honest, book 2 is not my favorite. It's not. I would always tell people, like, you got to make it to book 3. If you make it to book 3, you've got it. But this chapter has sort of redeemed my thought. This alone, and I've liked the rest of the book. This chapter alone, if you want somebody to really read about what's going on in Harry Potter, you've got the dueling club, you've got the hilarity of the curses, Moaning Myrtle's toilet. Like, there's a lot of really good things going on that you could read any excerpt of this and it'd be funny and interesting.
Yeah, and you have a good Harry character moment.
Yes.
Standing up to the Hufflepuffs.
Yes.
And some depth that we really haven't seen from any other houses that's not Slytherin or Gryffindor. Like, we get some actual personality. It's
and characters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's good to see.
People with personality.
And a huge plot point.
Right. Well, and a cliffhanger. Okay, go to Dumbledore's office.
Yep.
End of chapter.
And a whole new location. A big location.
A very big location.
Yeah, I agree. So with that, I'm going to get into my 5 burning questions.
Oh, hello, Harry, he said, from Percy. Excellent flying yesterday, really excellent. Gryffindor has just taken the lead for the House Cup. You earned 50 points.
So this is my question. Is it only the Gryffindor match point differential that gets applied to the House Cup?
I'm going to counter that with a question of my own before I answer your question.
Okay.
Is 50 points the differential?
I didn't go back and look, but how else could he have gotten only 50 points? Because I know the other time that we saw he won 150 points, it was when he caught the snitch.
Right away.
Right
so
away.
it was 0 to 150.
So it was 0 to 150. That's the only other time I think it's been mentioned at this point.
Okay.
So I would need to double check and see if we knew what the score was. I mean, basically, they would have to have been up by 100 or down by 100.
Which they were definitely losing.
So if they were down by 100 and he catches the snitch, then he gets Gryffindor.
Okay.
Which then, if that is the case, I like the idea of the point differential going towards house points
Which
better
we've talked
than
about.
just the overall points.
Yes.
I can buy into this.
And that was my point, because that was one of my questions earlier, and then I saw that you had this, so I didn't do it. I think that's my point, that I think it's the difference between the winning and the losing, and you get the difference added to your House Cup.
Right. So it is a benefit to get a ton of points.
It is a benefit to get a ton of points, or even just to win in general.
Right.
Like a win helps them.
Right. You can't get points if you lose. So
Right.
For House Cup points.
And so to answer your question, which for those of you who've missed the question because we rambled, is only the Quidditch match point differential that gets applied to the House Cup. Yes, I think it is.
I think so as well.
Yes.
And I like that better than what it seemed like it was leading towards. And I think she added this. I think
To
JK
help.
added this to help clarify that, and maybe she didn't have it figured out in book 1.
Maybe. Well, and I also think because when I originally read your question, I read it wrong. And I thought you were asking, is it only the Quidditch points that matter to win the House Cup? Like, since you're getting so many points from the Quidditch Cup, will any of the rest of the points matter? And I realized, no, that's not what you're asking. But I don't think so, because only 50 points differential, you can easily make
I mean,
that
we've
up.
seen,
Yes.
in 2 weeks of class, if you do decent, you can get half that pretty...
By yourself, if you're Hermione.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Depending
you can
on
get
the
5 points
teacher.
here and there pretty easily.
Right.
Okay. So my next question number 2, where did Harry learn the tickling charm?
That is a great question. It sure seemed like a lot of those curses were like
more complicated
ones.
Or
So I'm going to go with one of two things. It's either A, he and the boys in the Gryffindor dorm room, the 5 of them, have been practicing like annoying sneak attacks for things like when Percy is bothering Ron, or just in general to be annoying boys. Because boys.
Sure.
Or B, Flitwick teaches it to them for fun.
Okay, little just quick, simple, fun lessons.
Why not?
Yeah.
Because a lot of those were like that. The dancing charm was like that. So maybe they're actual charms that we haven't seen charms class this year.
Right.
Maybe that's what you do in charms. It's charming people as opposed to charming feathers.
How charming.
Oh, maybe an actual curriculum that builds one year upon another.
I'm going to throw another little option in there.
Okay.
It's basically like A.2.
Okay.
The twins. I mean...
Always the twins.
Right. That's...
When in doubt, assume the
so
twins did
that
it.
group of 5 just learns it from the twins. And then work together.
I agree with that too.
Yeah, so...
All right.
I hope it's both.
There you go.
Question number 3. How did no one notice that the snake stopped going for Justin once Harry spoke to it? How did no one see this?
Because plot happens and they need... I don't know, because it was very obvious. He said stop, the snake stopped. Unless Harry was talking to it to tell it to stop, and before it could actually do that, Snape magicked it away. Like, maybe all those things happened so quickly in succession. That's not the right word, but in succession.
Yeah.
That...
Yeah, there weren't presidents, the list.
No, succession is quitting.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Quitting the country. I know, I taught that vocabulary word today.
Did you?
I did. I had to pronounce it correctly and spell it. That was difficult, but I taught it. So, sidebar, I think it happened so quickly, that sequence was so fast one after another, that in the pandemonium of there being a random snake, they just didn't notice. You're going to look it up, aren't you?
Well, I just feel like there was a definite pause in there. Harry wasn't sure what made him do it. He wasn't even aware of deciding to do it. All he knew that his legs were carrying him forward as though he was on casters, and that he had shouted stupidly at the snake, "Leave him alone!" And miraculously, inexplicably, the snake slumped to the floor, docile as a thick black garden hose, its eyes now on Harry. Harry felt the fear drain out of him. He knew the snake wouldn't attack anyone now, though how he knew it, he couldn't have explained. He looked up at Justin, grinning, expecting to see Justin looking relieved or puzzled or even grateful, but certainly not angry. "What do you think you're playing at?" he shouted, and before Harry could say anything, Justin had turned and stormed out of the hall. Snape stepped forward, waved his hand, and the snake vanished in a small puff of black smoke. So
okay, so definitely there was a pause in the pandemonium, and he should have been able to know that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know then.
So
I got nothing.
I don't know. Listeners, let us know. Question 4. Do you think that Harry could be Slytherin's heir?
Yes, I think it's possible. I mean, I would say everybody except maybe Hermione and Justin and Colin have that possibility, because even if he had just 2 or 3 kids, and each of those kids only had 1 or 2 kids, and each of those kids had 2 or 3 kids, like the amount of heirs that you can, or descendants you can have within 1,000 years, it's exponentially huge. Yeah. So sure.
Right. And even Hermione says in that, it's like, well, for all we know, it could be true. Like he really could be your great times X grandfather. It's we'll see. My final question number 5. What do you think could have done this to Nearly Headless Nick? A ghost that's been petrified.
I don't know, but
this just feels like it just got way bigger. Like with that, this just got way bigger.
To attack a person,
right, or a cat, or whatever,
something living,
right.
But to harm something that already died?
Yeah. To me, that's
huge. I don't know what it is, unless it's a ghost horse trampling them down.
Ghost horse, yeah.
Maybe it's a ghost monster or something. I mean, the voice has been heard in random places. We don't know.
I think we postulated that maybe it could be some kind of invisible ghost that for some reason only Harry hears. We when he was in the detention, I think that's plausible. There could be something to that.
Well, he can talk to snakes. Maybe he has some sort of ghost ESP mind reading skills that we don't know about either.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Tough stuff.
Yep. All right, Luke, what was your favorite line?
Oh, my favorite line is when Ron is reflecting on Dobby's attempt at saving Harry, and he says, "If he doesn't stop trying to save your life, he's going to kill you." Pretty well said there, Ron. Dobby's attempts at saving are a bit disastrous.
They're incredibly disastrous. It's really rough. Yeah. I have a lot.
Yeah.
In general, my theme for this chapter was, JK with the burns. Man, she kept him coming. All right. So I have 2 runners up. I'm looking for the first one. Okay, here we go. So my first 2 are burns, both of which are about Lockhart, because in general, I can't not make fun of him, okay? The first one starts with Hermione, who's a little worried about Lockhart after Snape got him in the example duel. And it starts,
"Do you think he's all right?" she squealed through her fingers. "Who cares?" said Harry and Ron together.
I like it, because I agree with the voice.
Yeah, it's funny to see that Harry's fully... we've seen him be pretty heartily annoyed. Ron's been having no time for Lockhart since the beginning.
Right.
It's funny that they're both kind of blatantly at Hermione being like, how are you not seeing that he is a total waste of space?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
How are you missing this? Open your eyes.
Yep. My next Lockhart burn.
Lockhart cuffed Harry merrily on the shoulder. "Just do what I did, Harry." "What, drop my wand?"
Harry's got some... It's the Vernon Dursley coming out in him.
Oh, yeah.
Throwback to last book.
Yeah.
He's got some solid burns, Harry.
That was pretty high on my list.
But none of them are my favorite line. My favorite line comes from the wonderfulness that is Peeves. And it's a song, although I will not sing for you.
"Oh, Potter, you rotter, oh, what have you done? You're killing off students, you think it's good fun."
I like it. I like Peeves.
Peeves is fun.
Peeves
He's
is
pretty
awesome.
irritating. I could see
He's perfectly irritating.
Right, which is exactly what he is. He's written so well.
Yes. So well. Now, if I were a teacher in that school, he would drive me absolutely
Oh
berserk.
yeah, and like if you were
Yep.
in Harry's shoes, it'd be like,
Yep.
"Are you kidding me? Like right now, like this is the worst possible time. Please, can you just
Can you not
do this anywhere else? Like not right now,
Yeah.
please."
Exactly.
Which is exactly what he needs to do.
Right. All right. So who is your chapter MVP?
So my chapter MVP, and this actually reminds me a lot of a chapter we had in book 1. I picked Ron specifically for the similar to after Harry's first potions class with Snape, where Harry's really down on himself and they go to Hagrid's together, and Harry is helped out by Ron to get his head kind of righted.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ron does that same exact "I'm your best friend" card, and I know exactly what it takes to get you kind of back on track, which Harry's needed a lot of lately. You know, he's in a rough spot like he hasn't really had before, and it's good for Harry that Ron is still there and can get right to the point with him. And I mean, he dragged him out of the dueling club. That's, you know, the scene that I'm
Right.
thinking most of.
Yes.
And, you know, he's just kind of saying like, yeah, this is spooky stuff. I mean, I believe you. Like, I get it. It's cool.
I got your back.
But this isn't normal. Like he does that, you know, dual side of I'm with you. Don't worry on that, but I'm letting you know this is weird. Like he still gives him the Wizarding Society cultural stuff at the same time.
Yes.
So who was your honorable mention?
Peeves.
I'm not surprised.
Peeves. I love Peeves. Peeves is the best. He's funny. He's rude. It's really nice. I almost feel like in general, what Peeves brings to the school, and this is like formulating as I speak. This is a school full of hormonal teenage boys and girls, but it's the boys.
It's the perspective of boys that we
Right.
see.
My point is, boys are loud and brash and make farting noises and like roughhouse. Like they do all those things and they're overwhelming. Here's the thing. At Hogwarts, there's no point in doing them because Peeves will do them. Peeves does it better. Peeves does it louder. Peeves takes your horseplay and takes it as a challenge to do more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost not worth doing, especially if Peeves is around, because it's just going to make, like, everybody is annoyed by Peeves. It is a collective annoyance.
It's equal opportunity
So
annoyance.
it's almost like they keep Peeves around. Let's see if I can formulate this. They keep Peeves around
To keep their rambunctiousness down.
to sort of minimize that of everybody else, because they can't top him and they get annoyed by him, so they're not going to do what he does.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like it's a physical embodiment of what is that called? When you say something but you really want him to do something else. What is that called? It's like
Reverse psychology.
That. It is a physical embodiment of reverse psychology.
Yeah.
This is my new Peeves theory.
I could buy off on this.
Okay.
We'll keep an eye on that, I think. I could buy into this.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to work on the Weasley twins.
No.
But your general
On
population,
average,
right?
The average student, their rambunctiousness is going to potentially be overshadowed, or, you know, they're going to feel overshadowed enough that they don't want to do it.
Either they're going to feel overshadowed enough because Peeves is going to do
Or,
it so they don't need to,
like the
or they're
Weasley
going to be
twins.
so annoyed by Peeves that they won't realize that it's keeping them from doing the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough.
It's a half-formed thought, so
It needs some work.
I need some research on it, but this is my new working theory about the point of Peeves, other than he makes me laugh a lot.
Hey, guess what? You're listening to a podcast. That means you probably like listening to content through your earbuds. Let us give you a free audiobook from audible.com so that you can listen along to the book that we're going through right now, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. To do so, go to www.thepodcastthat.com/support us and use our special Audible affiliate link to start your free 30-day trial today. All right, well, that wraps us up.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to share us with your friends, your neighbors, and any other random person that you can force into a chair to listen to us talk. That would
And
be
their
great.
friends and neighbors.
That's right. So, a collective mobbing of people duct taped to chairs or whatever. It would
Force
be great.
everyone you have ever met to listen to this.
By having them go to Twitter and finding us at Not Named Podcast, forcing them to write us congratulatory emails to the podcast that must not be named at gmail.com.
Set their browser homepage to thepodcastthat.com,
where they can listen to every podcast episode we have released, along with, for our adult listeners, our Game of Thrones affiliate, the podcast that drinks and knows things.
Our upcoming The Podcast That Floats Down Here, Stephen King's It. Subscribe and rate us on iTunes.
Lots of stars.
Lots of stars. As many as they allow you to put that many, and then try to do it again. Leave us a comment on iTunes or on YouTube.
Join us next week when we divulge our thoughts about Chapter 12.
The Polyjuice Potion. Stay imaginary.
Gracias.